Have you ever thought about switching your homeschool curriculum? Maybe you're thinking about it right now. I know for me, whenever we have a rough day in our homeschool, there's always a little voice in the back of my head that says, if we just had the perfect homeschool curriculum, this would all go away and it would be so much easier. And I know that sometimes I choose a curriculum that I get really excited about in the fall. And then by the time the winter rolls around, I like it a little bit less. And honestly, I'm starting to dread using it. Well, if any of those are the case for you, today I want to share the thought process that I go through when I'm considering switching curriculums. Before I was a homeschool mom, I was a teacher. I have a degree in education and over a decade of experience in the classroom. And so I want to share the process that I go through when I evaluate curriculum and when I make that decision about whether or not it's time for our family to switch. So, in my family, we've switched homeschool curriculum options several times. And my favorite switch that we've made was in our history curriculum. At the time, we were using a history curriculum that was fine. It was working, it was teaching my kids history, but it was pretty boring and dry. And the more that we used it, the more that I could see that my kids were not very interested in history as a result of the way that we were studying it. And I thought back to my own experience in public school as a child and the way that history was pretty boring and dry for me. I didn't particularly love the textbooks that we used, and I felt like it was just a string of names and dates and events that I was supposed to memorize. And it wasn't until my experience as an adult in reading historical fiction books and visiting historical places that I realized that history really just is a giant story. And I started to fall in love with learning about that story and learning about the people who lived during those time periods. And so I really wanted that love of history to be there for my kids as well. And I just wasn't seeing it from the curriculum that we had. And so I decided to make a switch to a curriculum that is much more literature based and that is based on stories so that my kids could start to experience the parts of history that I love and learn to love those for themselves. So my family decided to switch to Sonlight for history, and we are loving it so much. It's the highlight of our homeschool day and one of my kids' favorite subjects, almost always. And so I wanted to share some of the background behind our switch and the process that we went through as we were making the switch. Whenever I'm thinking about switching a homeschool curriculum, there are three things that I'm always thinking about. And the first one is it a good fit for my kids and for their learning style? And so I want to take a minute to reflect on my kids and think about how they learn, and then think about whether or not this new curriculum would support them in learning the way that they learn best, whether or not they would enjoy it, whether or not it would click with them. And so for my family, my kids both really love to learn through stories and through being read to. One of our favorite parts of our homeschool day is when I spend some time just sitting together with my kids and reading to them from different books. They love to hear stories and they love to hear read alouds. And so this is always a highlight for us and something that I was looking to incorporate in our new history curriculum. I love the fact that Sonlight comes with an entire box full of books, everything that you need for the entire school year. So we have all of those books ready to go, and the whole curriculum is based on reading together as a family. There are always a great variety of books, usually some classics that I remember reading from my childhood, which is always extra fun for me, and then also some new books that we get to discover together. And my kids have really enjoyed the process of learning history this way because they're getting a chance to dive deep into some of the characters and the time periods that they're studying. And rather than just memorizing that string of names and dates and events like I did, they're diving deep into what it was like to live during those time periods as they explore the stories of people who did live then. And this has been just such a great way for them to have such a deeper, richer experience of history than I ever did. The second thing that's really important to consider is whether or not the curriculum will be a good fit for you as the teacher. I think this one might actually be more important than whether or not the curriculum is a good fit for your child, because ultimately you need a curriculum that's a good fit for you so that you'll be motivated and inspired to teach that subject to your kids or to work on that subject with your kids. This is so true whenever you're choosing a new curriculum because there are so many different styles for us as parents. Some people have lots of free time during their day to spend homeschooling and are looking for a curriculum where they can really dive deep and get hands on with their kids. And others are in a life space where you're really busy. Maybe you have a new baby at home, or maybe you're working. And if that's the case, then you might need a curriculum that's much more open and go and where your kids can do it independently. Some people might be looking for a curriculum that's more book based, and others for one that's more project based. And there's no right or wrong to any of those things. It's just important to be really honest with yourself about what life space you're in and what you're looking for out of the curriculum that you choose. I was definitely looking for a curriculum that would allow me to spend more time reading out loud with my kids and enjoying spending time with them and less time planning lessons. And that was another one of the reasons why we chose Sunlight. Every Sonlight curriculum comes with a fantastic instructor's guide that lays out exactly what to do for each lesson. The instructor's guides have pages, charts for each week that show the days of the week and have the lessons already planned for me. So when it's time for my homeschool planning, all I have to do is open up that binder to the week that we're on and I'm ready to go. I love that because it saves me hours over the course of the school year in finding books and choosing pages and figuring out what to do. And instead, I can just spend that time reading the books out loud to my kids. I also love that this is a curriculum that my whole family can enjoy together. My kids are 3 years apart, and even despite that age span, we're able to choose a Sunlight history curriculum that works for both of them. I love that my kids are able to learn history together. I feel like it's a great bonding opportunity for them and for us as a family. And I also love that I only have to teach history once each day. I definitely recommend looking for a curriculum that you can use for your whole family if you can. Sunlight also offers a 5 day or a 4 day option. So, if you have a busy schedule with homeschool co op or activities happening outside of the home, you can always choose the 4 day option, and then that gives you a built in catch up day every week. I love that too. And then the final thing that I always do when I'm considering switching a homeschool curriculum is to spend some time observing my kids as they learn. I want to do this before we switch and then also after to make sure that the switch was something that was good for my kids. And I also want to make sure that I have an opportunity to reach out and ask questions and get support if we need to as we're learning how to implement the new curriculum. I love that Sunlight has advisors available so that you can get in touch with somebody who's an expert in the Sunlight curriculum and who will help you with learning how to use it and how to implement it with your kids. And this is a free service that they offer. And I absolutely love that as well. For us, as we were getting started with our switch, I started to notice a big change in my kids. I noticed that instead of dreading history or asking if we could skip it, my kids started asking to do history. They were really excited to see what was going to happen next in the books that we were reading, and they were asking me to do more chapters, to keep reading when I thought I was going to be done, or even to do school on days when I hadn't planned it. I know we have a win as a homeschool family whenever my kids are asking to do school on Saturdays. And that has definitely happened with this new Sunlight curriculum. I'm going to put links down in the description of this video to where you can learn more about Sunlight and all of the programs that they have to offer for preschool all the way up through high school, and so that you can decide if a switch to Sunlight is right for your family.